I'm here with Jack and Ella Collins, who tragically lost their little daughter, Ivy, in Cyclone Gabrielle last year. Kia ora, Jack and Ella. Thanks for joining me.
Kia ora, Andrew. Thank you for having us.
Yeah. First of all, my heartfelt condolences. As a father of three daughters, I can't even imagine what you've been through. I'd like to start the interview by just asking you to describe little Ivy, how old she was, and her little personality.
Well, Ivy, she was my pride and joy. Really, she was everything that was right with the world. She was amazing. She had this light and energy and warmth that radiated from her. She was hyper intelligent, very emotionally mature. She was very empathetic, understanding, comprehensive. Watching her play with her big sister Imogen was just beautiful. They were kindred spirits. They were the best of friends.
Yeah.
They were absolutely inseparable. They do everything together. Ivy was Daddy's little girl. She was just incredible. She built like a rugby player with the face of an angel. She was just unbelievable.
I called her Daddy's little fridge. Comparatively to Imogen, Imogen's so petite, like a little fairy, and Ivy was just there to get shit done. She didn't let anything stand in her way. She was so confident and
very opposite, but they balanced each other so perfectly.
Yes.
You know, Imogen was very sort of apprehensive and slight and slender and very girly, whereas Ivy was the opposite. You know, she's very courageous and fearless.
And a bubbly personality.
Oh,
Yes,
very kind and gentle and bubbly, but absolutely fearless and just really keen to get into things. She just loved getting her hands dirty, playing in the mud, playing with paints and Play-Doh and all sorts. She was just a happy little girl.
I
She
think
was
in
amazing.
a lot of ways she was Imogen's courage.
Yeah.
And I know certainly now that deficit is noticed in our little girl.
It's the yin to her yang.
Yeah.
Because you've now got a little boy, Jack.
We do.
And he seems to be a lively little boy.
Oh, yes.
Having met him just recently.
Yeah.
We'll get on more about him and that, but soon. But I just want to, if you don't mind, just take you back to that night. I know it's a difficult time, and I'm sure you relive it every day. I would suspect. Just tell me, what were you doing? Because it was the early hours of the morning, so had you gone to bed?
Oh,
that
yeah.
night?
Yeah.
It was sound asleep in bed. It was just another work night for me, you know. I'd worked all day and picked up a couple of supplies at the supermarket because we were in for a bit of bad weather. So I got some charcoal for the barbecue and a couple other bits and pieces for the fridge. And
I made a big pot of soup from the garden and ran some over to the neighbour. Wow. It was just there's a storm coming.
well, we stayed up late because it was quite bad weather, keeping an ear out for any news, a civil defence alert or something like that. But
Nothing
everything we read was it's going to be fine. You
Yeah.
just go to bed.
The last
you'll
thing
be
I
right.
read was on a Napier City Council page where it stated that they had staff where staff needed to be, that everything was fine and that would be monitored.
The rivers were being observed and monitored, and everyone was in their place. Battle stations were being manned, and
So we
the
were
civil defence were there to defend the civilians.
And that was what time was that in the evening that you read that?
It'd have been about midnight, I think.
Okay.
Oh no, I think it was earlier than that.
Well,
I couldn't
that
say
would have
for
been probably
sure,
earlier, but we
but-
stayed up till midnight.
Yeah. And now you were in the Esk Valley.
We were in
you're-
Whirinaki, right at the
Whirinaki,
bottom of
okay.
Esk Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you went to sleep that night thinking, a little bit of bad weather, but, get a good night's sleep. And what time were you?
Well, we've all lived through storms before. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's a bit wet, it's a bit wild, but you wake up and you go to work and life carries on.
I woke up, I think it was about 4:30, and I could
It's earlier
hear,
than that, wasn't it?
no, it was about 4 o'clock, and I could hear water rushing. And I thought, maybe, Jack's got up, gone to the bathroom, left the tap on or something, or gosh, there's a hole in the roof. We knew it was raining. And so I got out of bed and I put my foot into ankle deep water.
Wow.
And of course, panicked a little bit, just in my chest. And I went out of our bedroom, and everything's quite open plan in our house. So I looked through the kitchen and I could see in the laundry door down the end of that room there that the cat door was just open and gushing like a full faucet.
Wow.
So naturally I went and got Jack, I went and put my glasses on so that I could actually see what was going on. And initially I started picking things up, thinking, what can I salvage here? And Jack was calming me, saying, don't worry, it's just stuff. Like,
Because you didn't have any idea the level was going to rise.
Goodness, no, and not so quickly.
We've
It
all seen
was-
flooding on the TV. You know, you get a wet floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People put sandbags down and they shovel out dirt, and it's not that bad, and everyone carries on. But this was something else. This wasn't flooding as we know it.
And
This
even
was a
in-
biblical amount of water.
Even in that moment, I remember Jack saying, if this was serious, our phones would be sending us an
Exactly.
alert right now.
Yep.
It's not, so we can just wait it out.
Wow.
Um,
So there
and
were
so we
no,
did-
Well,
there
no
were
one else is
alerts
panicking,
from
why
civil
should we?
defence or
Nothing,
anything. Nothing
absolutely
came
nothing.
through.
At that point, both of our phones were still on and running.
We're checking
and
our phones, make
there
sure
was
everything.
nothing.
Yep.
We have a group community chat in our community. It's really lovely, tight knit, very typical Kiwi community out there. And having looked through there, and there was nothing serious on there either, other than one message from a neighbour saying, if anybody needs anything, here's my mobile number. You can call me. And I tried to call her a couple of times, it didn't go through. So they had obviously already,
Evacuated, yeah.
well, I don't think
Self-evacuated.
self-evacuated
Yeah.
to the highest ground that they could get to.
yeah. And then, so the water just kept on rising.
Yeah, that was quick.
And at this stage, the kids were still asleep, were they?
They were on their, they stayed on, the girls shared a queen bed. They were on their bed, and their bed just started floating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we sort of thought, we'll wait, and
At that point, we realised it wasn't stopping and we needed to get out. So we grabbed the girls and woke them up and said, hey, we're going on an adventure. It's going to be scary, you know, it's going to be cold, it's going to be wet. We bundled them out with what little supplies we could grab, and we had them on our shoulders, and the water was deeper than it was inside. By this point, it was up to our chests, and they were trying to make it just a couple of houses down the road to an A-frame, 2-storied house where it was the only high ground for miles around. Yeah, we almost made it. We were so close to making it. We were trying to cross a driveway right before this house. We had the girls on our shoulders. Me and Ella had our arms linked. I had Imogen. She had Ivy on her. And as we crossed this driveway, I still can't 100% tell you what happened, but there was a big surge of water and the ground under our feet was washed out, basically, and we went head over heels.
Yeah.
We were just swept away with rubble, debris, everything.
And obviously you lost...
She was sent head over heels, and Ivy was
The water just
torn
lifted
off her
my
shoulders.
shoulders. And I come up out of the water just in time to see her float away.
I'm so sorry.
I had Imogen on my shoulders, and there was no ground under my feet. There's nothing to hang on to, and I was trying to swim, and I remember her panicking and climbing up on my head. Then I was underwater at that point, and I had a lung full, and I thought I was going to die. I was certain I was going to die. But that was it. Somehow, magically, my hand bumped into a bush, and I grabbed onto it, and I managed to pull us out of the...
So you were still linked to Ella at that stage?
No. We got bowled away.
Oh, okay.
We were just stood no chance.
Wow. So you were clinging, you and Imogen were clinging to the bush. Where were you at this stage?
Imogen had managed to... Ella had managed to be swept into the same bush. So I managed to get my head out of the water and saw her. I took Imogen off my shoulders and put her on the hedge, and she screamed. I lost her.
As soon as I saw her, it's all happened all very quickly. Even from the moment we left the house to this moment was, a matter of 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so much happened in that 20 minutes time is like not a factor. It's absolutely crazy. But I just screamed. I've lost her. And he said, take Imogen. So we pried her off Jack, and I held onto the hedge, and I held onto Imogen, and Jack dove in the water after Ivy. Managed to catch himself on a tree. He had a phone light to look around for her. But of course, there was such a strong current. The water
had swept straight through the section out into the back paddocks. All I could see was just darkness and water. There's no fucking chance that I would have been able to see anything, find her. She was gone. Well, I was just in the tree yelling out, screaming for her. I did my best, man, but it wasn't good enough.
Yeah. Was it like surreal? Did you think, is this actually happening to us?
I don't think you think.
Yeah.
I don't think you stop and think. Not at that point.
Yeah.
It's just, what's the very next thing I can do to not die?
Yeah.
That's all you're thinking.
Yeah.
And as far as I was aware, so all the water was just moving like this, except down that one driveway. It was like whether something somewhere had broken and that water decided that that was the path. It was rushing. It was absolute torrent. And I knew Jack had gone down that way, and that's all I knew. I couldn't hear him. It's raining. It's pitch black. We had the torchlights on our phones. Somehow, miraculously, they were still on. And I could see his light, but there was no way I could get to him. I didn't know if he could get back to us. So the most logical thing for me was to try and take Imogen somewhere safer than on the side of a hedge next to this torrent. And so we backtracked a little bit, and I managed to get her into our neighbour's house, and I put her on a floating couch and stripped off her wet pyjamas because she was absolutely sodden by that point, and wrapped her in like a shawl or something that was on the couch that was still dry.
And Jack, at this time, were you just still frantically trying to?
I looked up and I saw Imogen and Ella standing outside the neighbour's place. And at that point, I sort of just focused on them. I knew I had to get back for their sake. So I managed to climb along the back fence, still being hammered by water and debris and everything else. Climb along the garage and actually swim over the neighbour's ute back towards the house, and regrouped with Ella and Imogen and our neighbours who were up on the side of the roof. They actually couldn't get onto the roof because it was too slippery.
What did you say to each other when you reconnected? Can you remember, or was it just...
So we needed to get up high, we needed to get out of the water.
So it was all practical on what you needed to do.
Absolutely.
We were
there
up to our
wasn't
chests
time
on
for
the water.
anything else.
No
So his
emotion,
chest, it's my shoulders. You know, it's just,
So now you're finally reunited at your neighbour's property, and it must have been quite a relief. But as you were just saying, obviously the practical issue of how are you going to get to safety. So eventually, did you start trying to move your way up the house, or what was the situation?
We needed to move up out of the water, and the only way we could do that was, at this point, get on the roof or into the roof space. There was some tiles in the garage stacked up under the hatch to get into the roof, fortunately. So I raided the linen cupboard, chucked a whole bunch of towels, blankets, whatever was still dry on the top of the cupboard up through this hole.
Which that forethought was amazing.
Yeah,
and then
you would have been freezing by now.
Absolutely.
Well, getting cold.
We were saturated, and it was very cold. Imogen was turning blue.
Yeah.
So I put Imogen up through the hole and boosted Ella up through, then I climbed up in and made us a bit of a bed out of dry blankets with some pink bats, and sort of just all huddled together for warmth. And the water continued to rise, and our neighbours who were outside, sort of up against the roof as high as they could be on some outdoor furniture that had been stacked up, we could hear them yelling, and I could just make out that they were saying the water levels were rising. So I removed the hatch, which we'd put back because the wind was just howling through.
Yeah. There's a lot more to our story. It's not a case of we got into the roof and then we were fine. A lot more happened that night. It was another probably couple of hours of trying to not die, and trying to get safe and trying to avoid hypothermia and all of those things. And then there was another 8 or 10 hours before we were actually taken out of the area by helicopter. But if we could focus this time to talk about the issues now,
absolutely.
Which is the report that's come out.
Yeah. Well, I can't even begin to imagine what you went through those 10 hours and that. And as you say, there is a broader issue, and don't want to minimise your story because...
The story will come out.
Yeah.
It will come out, but I think we need to prioritise some key issues at this stage.
So now, once you sort of processed, and obviously it would have been days of grief and just months of grief.
Got my life of grief left to go.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm not minimising it at all.
No,
but at some point you must have started feeling a bit angry. And when did that happen?
The anger for me came when it was announced that there were 72 people on an email chain in the days leading up to Cyclone Gabrielle that were being advised by the Lights and Met Service and you know, the people watching the weather.
72.
72 people.
Yeah.
That's what I was told.
When I heard that the people at the river observation stations decided to come home because the measuring devices had been washed away by a raging river, They had nothing left to monitor, so they decided to go home for the night. My blood ran cold.
Yeah.
Absolutely ran cold.
Initially, we thought, it's a natural disaster. And you kind of come to terms with the fact that there's no one to be angry at. Yes, you're angry, but there's no one to be angry at.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that could have been done. And I think, in a way, that was a big part of my processing initially, was there was nothing that could have been done. And I firmly believe we did, in every given moment of that night, we did the best thing we possibly could with the information that we had at that time, in that night. To find out after the fact that we could have been evacuated, that makes me very angry.
So, Regional Council, you didn't hear from them. Hastings, because you would be in the Hastings District Council, didn't hear from them. So, in the evening, you saw a post on Napier City Council saying that civil defence was out and about. You didn't
And that they had their own staff stationed and that they were watching and everything was fine.
And you didn't get any alerts on your phone at all. You didn't see any civil defence or anything around your house. The first time
Not until the helicopter came to get us.
First time you saw was when the
So
helicopter
NH90 came in to pick us up out of the roof.
We were able to make contact with emergency services sporadically. Obviously, comms were in and out. So we were able to tell them where we were. We called them back to let them know that we had made it safely inside the roof and that we were okay for now. If there were people that had a higher risk, we explained to them that we had our neighbours with us. I was pregnant, that we had lost our daughter, and we had our 4-year-old with us. They knew where we were. They knew what our circumstance was at that time. And then a number of hours later, the afternoon, we were lifted out.
And now. There have been 3 reviews actually that have been done. One at a Napier City Council level, one the sort of regional council and all the councils did one as well by Mike Bush, and then the latest one, a government inquiry by Sir Jerry Mataparai. What you have read in those reports, has any of it given you any hope or confidence that things will change?
Absolutely not.
It's sort of done the opposite for me. It's highlighted an issue that needs to change. And now that we've identified the party that needs to change, we can go from there.
So they all say the right things. They say it is going to change.
Oh, you can say whatever you want, mate. That's what they said back in the 30s, things will change. It's just happened again. So until we're seen to be changing these things, you can say whatever you want, but the proof's in the punch, mate. You need to do something.
It's stated in this review that everything that's been suggested in this review has been suggested in the past and never put into action.
We're still 14 months on, and what have they done?
And as one of our neighbours said the other day, we're 14 months on and we're no better prepared than one day before the flood.
Now little Jack's joined us. Welcome, Jack. Has anyone ever apologised to you?
No, we've not been contacted by anybody. Oh, hey.
So you've just been left to carry on. Haven't had any notification or contact with
I've been
anyone?
left alone just like we were on that night.
The only people that contacted us from the council was when they were organising the anniversary events and they asked if we wanted to be a part of it.
And were you?
No, we chose not to.
Did you go to the one, I think there was a private one in Excel?
No, we were invited. We chose not to. And it's an interesting thing among, being involved with everybody else, with all of the people that were involved in this. And you do feel like you're part of something separate from everybody else, because unless you were really there, you don't get it. And everybody has their own stories and circumstances as well. So, I'm not going to understand the next person's not going to understand mine. And I think you make peace with that. But what we've found really hard is being that family. And having to tell that story takes a huge amount of yourself, all parts of yourself.
Especially such a traumatic story as well.
Yes.
I'm already more famous than I ever wanted to be.
Well, I appreciate you being here and I understand the toll this would be taking on you, and I don't want you to relive everything. So
I'm doomed to relive it every night. Might as well talk about it and use it for progress.
Absolutely.
That's it. If telling our story is going to have any impact on there being some accountability and there being some change, then it's worth opening our mouths. It's worth coming here today.
So you don't only want changes made to improve the system, you want accountability for what happened as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, there has to be
Yeah.
accountability. Again, if there was 72 people in that email chain, why did not one of them do something? Why did not one of them push the big red button that says, "Hey, get the hell out of there"? Again, I said it last time we spoke to the news. The property loss was inevitable. The loss of life could have been prevented.
Yeah.
It absolutely could have been prevented, and yeah.
Yeah, because the mayors, having spoken to the mayors, I think they got together via phone at about 4 in the morning and declared a state of emergency. So you believe that state of emergency should have been declared much sooner than that?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
If I step out into ankle deep water at 4 o'clock in the morning, is that not at what point does it become an emergency?
Yeah. And what
And others suffered before then,
Yeah.
well before then.
By nature, civil defence
So-
should be proactive rather than reactionary. They've had all this time and all this resource put into doing, what's their job? Defend the civilians, so that we're not the front line in the sill. It's these people's responsibility to look after us.
Yeah.
And they haven't done that.
Now, this latest review by Sir Jerry Matapara has said that basically the way we deal with natural disasters and that is broken. Jack and Ella's just stepped out for a moment with the little Jack, but Jack, can you just tell me how do you think we need to operate? Is it some people sitting in Wellington controlling things, or is it grassroots? What do you think the system should be?
Well, it needs to be a combination of both, doesn't
Yeah.
it? We do need to have grassroots, but it does need to be organised at a council level.
Yeah,
We need better communication with the people on the ground. We need to listen to our communities. We need to stop trying to contain everything within the government. It's almost becoming a regime.
yeah,
The power and influence is slowly being rescinded from the people.
yeah,
And because there is a massive reluctance to accept any blame, it makes me think that there's a lot of blame to be accepted.
yeah,
And I think these guys are running scared, and they know that there is, like you say, they know they're broken. I think it's been a big gamble for them the whole time. I think something happening was the fact that they were gambling on. And because it's happened, they've lost the gamble, and it's not something you can gamble with.
Because in that report it says that the aim isn't to apportion blame, but you feel that is an important part of people need to be accountable.
Well, it certainly seems to be their policy when somebody else has an accident of this calibre or this magnitude. A privatised business, so they have a minor accident or a loss of life or something like that, the government themselves will come down on them.
Yeah.
Like a pack of wild, hungry dogs.
Yeah.
We're seeing millions of dollars in property damage, multiple losses of life, and all of a sudden they want to say that no one can be held accountable or responsible. It's their job.
Yeah. So if you could sit down with the mayors and councillors of the different councils, what would you say to them?
Fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not a councillor, it's not my job.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't really know what to say here.
No. Yeah. You just say what you want. Yeah. What do you think we as a community can do to sort of get the people that we elect to take notice of what's going on and fix these things?
Well, I think if we held the first crowd responsible for their actions, there'd be a lot less people thinking they can get away with doing whatever they want in these positions of power.
Yeah.
Misappropriating funds, resources, whatever it is, giving people a false sense of security and failing to protect them when they're needed.
Yeah.
It needs massive reforms. They need to be able to do what they say they're going to do, and that's the bottom line.
Because Jack, your life's changed. I mean, it will never be the same. How are you coping now, 14 months on? How are you and Ella coping?
Every day brings its own challenges. You know, I have good days, I have bad days, just like all of us. But
Because you're not working at the moment, eh?
not at the moment, no. It's
You
just
were-
you don't really realise just how long your life, your house, your family, all your intentions and your future plans, how long that takes. It's taken me 30 years to get to that point,
Yeah.
and to have it all washed away in the matter of a night. I don't know. I had the next 10 years of my life looking pretty clear in my mind's eye, but now it's gone. It's completely gone. And I still don't really know where I stand, you know. We're running around with insurance and rebuilding and with trying to get my daughter therapy and the rest, you know. We've got dogs and vehicles, and there's a lot of admin to repair to get 20 years of life back together.
I can imagine, So what category was your house in? Because there were different categories, with category 3 being the worst.
I think now we're finally category 2, I believe, is our place. Ella's got more technical information on that side of things. It's not an ideal result, because it still means we're kind of in limbo at the moment as to what our property is even worth, or if it's insurable or what. Again, I guess it's just a case of hurry up and wait as far as that goes, but I'm also acutely aware that there are a lot of other people that still don't have any answers that are worse off than us.
Do you want to go back and live in that house? Because it would be a difficult one.
It would be. There are a lot of memories associated with that. And you know, rain on a tin roof used to be a very comforting thing for me. It used to help me sleep. I think if I were to go back to sleep there and I heard that rain, I think I would be looking out the window for rising water the whole night.
So, if we can say this, one good thing or one bit of joy that has come out of this whole thing is your little son Jack, who I met earlier. How has that been for you? It must be difficult knowing you've lost Ivy, but you've gained little Jack.
Yeah, we were a little bit mixed about it to begin with. You know, we were going to sort of wondering if it would make things harder or if it would be the little light that we needed, and it was the ray of sunshine that we needed, and still is. He's wonderful. He's a beautiful boy. I absolutely adore him. He's the apple of my eye.
And he's got a few challenges as well.
He does. He does. He was born with an aortic arrhythmia. He has a bit of a bum ticker, as they say. So we spent the first couple of months of his life living in and out of hospitals, Starship, Wellington, Hawke's Bay Hospital. So he's stabilised with medicine now, and he's sort of coming right. He's looking good. Outwardly he's fine. You wouldn't know he was a sick baby to look at.
He's a lovely little
Happy
boy.
as Larry, absolutely. I love him. Absolutely adore him.
Yeah. And now what can the community do to help you personally? Is there anything you need?
Not me. No, we're good. The community has been absolutely incredible. The community is... It makes me proud to be a citizen of this country. The people that we get to share our communities with.
Because there were lots of tales of heroism that night.
Oh, absolutely. You would have heard of the 3 Māori boys in the boat. You know, as the longer time goes on, the more of these stories you're hearing. Just really what our countrymen are made of.
And I think we can add your story as well in that, because I think, you know, diving into water to try and save your daughter, that would be quite heroic.
Some may think so. I think the true heroes are the ones that have to think about what they do before they commit to it. That was just reflex. I think to actually jump in your wetsuit, grab a couple of your mates, get out on the boat and go do what you can do, that's true heroism. That's amazing.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for your time, and Ella as well, and I'm sorry to have brought all this back up, but just the last thing, out of everything that has happened, what is the one thing you want people to know and to remember?
Be ready. Have a plan. Don't wait for an alert, because you know you can't trust the council. The best thing you can do is just have a plan, stay alert, talk to your neighbours, stay in touch with people.
And you've spoken to me today because you want your story heard and you want it to make a difference. Thank you so much, and all the best for you and your wonderful little family. And we wish everything good for you.
Thank you, Andrew, and you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.